Hello and welcome to a little cozy hobby vlog. It is Monday, Veterans Day, and I actually have today off completely and entirely. The rink has no ice. I don't have work. I actually have a day off. So I wanted to do some fun, cozy activities that I just haven't had time to do for a while. I started my day off with a workout, which is so nice because for work, I always end up working out in the evening, and I'm not an evening workout person. I like to kickstart my day with a workout. And that was wonderful. The only important to do thing I have on my list, and I also don't know if I can do it because it's Veterans Day. I don't know if it'll be open or closed, but I need to call my new insurance company. I picked out my insurance for 2025 and I thought I had done everything right. And then I got an email saying, hey, pick out your plan. And I'm like, I picked a plan. And they're like, pay for your plan. I'm like, okay, but it costs me $0 a month. Like the plan I picked in particular. So yeah, I have to call them. We'll see. We'll see if I can get that done. And if not, it's not the end of the world. I can do it tomorrow. I'm sure the offices will be open again. But back to hobbies, the fun, important things. As you saw, I got a little bin for my resistance bands in the cabinet where I keep all my workout gear. And I loved it and it fits perfectly. I'm thinking about picking up 3 more. I can definitely fit 4 in there because I have other small pieces of equipment like sliders and my gloves, and I have the long handled resistance bands. It's just every time I open it, stuff kind of comes pouring out, and I think that would help. I'm really happy that the little bin fit perfectly. Organizing, I feel like, is a very beloved hobby of mine. But right now, I want to work on the computer because it is time to make new wallpaper. I need some winter marshmallow wonderland type looking wallpaper. I just want light, airy, happy fluff. And I'm going to do the same, I think, for my phone. So I wanted to sit and do that. And then I found a recipe for pumpkin bagels. I really want to try making those. There are only 3 ingredients. And I want to make, instead of cinnamon sugar crumbles on top, I'm thinking about pumpkin spice sugar crumbles. They're going to be delicious. And then the main priority of our cozy hobby vlog is books. I have a stack of books. I want to do what I've read in 2024, part 3. We're so close to the grand finale, which I came up with what I want to do exactly for the final part of this series. So get excited for that. That one isn't going to be till the end of December, but we need to talk about books. And I'm actually almost done with Dracula's Guest. It's a bunch of short stories, so I'm hoping while things are baking, I can do that. My mom and I are thinking about going to the movies today to go see the new Venom movie, but it's kind of up in the air because we have a appointment, aka the furnace people are coming between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So if they show up and are gone before 3:30, we'll be able to go. And if they're not, well, then I'll just stay home and seize the opportunity to maybe do my nails because I really need to cut these. They're just too long for doing pottery. So yeah, that's the plan for this day off. And I'm keeping this vlog short. It's just a 1-day vlog because I'm trying my best to get ahead in my editing so I can stick to a consistent schedule for you guys. But on that note, enough yapping. Let's make some cute wallpaper. It's officially getting so dark so early that I've had to bring out my light. If you've been a long time watcher of the channel, I have a pretty old light. It was my mom's. It's not a ring light, but man, it works well. But I wanted to do a little taste test of the pumpkin bagels. I'm trying to figure out, I think I should have baked them maybe a little bit longer. I feel like my stove in particular doesn't get quite as hot. So just keeping that in mind, but like you can't go too wrong. So I'm gonna take a bite from the top of the bagel first. Yeah, I definitely think maybe cook them a little longer, but they're still delicious. Also, I put my friend's homemade apple jam. Next level. Now I'm gonna take a bite from the bottom, see if that's just as good. Okay, I would say those are definitely a success. They're so delicious. They're really heavy though, so I'll probably only eat like half of one at a time, but I'm sharing this one with my mom, so that's... we didn't end up going and seeing Venom. Right when we would need to leave is when the furnace dude came, but it's all right. However, I was able to get a hold of my new insurance company and I'm all set for 2025. So I have nothing to worry about, which is so nice. Now we're going to talk about the 8 most recent books I've read. This is part 3, all the books I've read in 2024. As you can see, we're missing a couple because they were digital. And I actually read this one digitally, but we're going to start back at the beginning and then I'll give you full reviews of my most recent reads. Also, I only need to read 2 more books to hit my reading goal, so I'm for sure going to do that, and I'm very excited. I honestly can't believe how many books I've read this year. I do not know how I found the time, but we found the time. So the 21st book that I read this year was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and this was an S-tier book for me this year. I really loved this book. I went into it, honestly, completely blind. I knew people liked it, had no idea what the story was about. When I hear that a lot of people enjoy a book, sometimes I'm like, okay, then I don't want to hear any in-depth reviews. I just want to dive in. I want to see what the hype is without any influence, so to speak, other than, hey, some people kind of liked it and I loved it. I was really hooked on it pretty quickly. And I think it did such a good job of showing the gray area of good and bad in people. Definitely recommend this one, which I tried to follow up with my 22nd read, The Great Gatsby and Other Stories. It has The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and A Diamond as Big as the Ritz in this. Listen, I loved the film. I hated this book. I had the hardest time getting into it, and not because of the writing style, like how he writes is beautiful. I just hated absolutely every character. The lack of morality makes me question why this has ever been required reading in a high school. But I will give it this. The Great Gatsby, not as morally unethical as I would say the characters in The Diamond as Big as the Ritz. Not as confusing as the morality of the characters in The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. So yeah, don't recommend this. Then the 23rd book I read in a day. I read The Secret of Poppy Ridge Cove. I love this book. I love a good little quick mystery. It's just so cozy. I had the day off and I was feeling pretty burnt out and I needed an escapism day where I mostly laid around, ate snacks, and read book, and it was perfect. Honestly, it was a really fun, quick read, and it's free on iBooks, so I definitely suggest giving it a quick read. The 24th book I read was The People I Hated the Wedding. Listen, I enjoyed this book. It gave me some giggles, but sometimes it was a little, like, too dramatic. It got to the point where it wasn't really funny, but it wasn't real drama enough to be upset for them. However, my brain made it really funny because I cast everyone in the book essentially from Schitt's Creek, the show. I just copy pasted everyone. So yeah, I still loved it. I still really enjoyed it. And I think if you do that with your brain, you will love this. I really think you will. So I do recommend it in that sense. For my 25th book, I wanted to dabble in Nora Roberts because I've picked up a couple of her books at garage sales for like $1 here and there. This was The Liar. Now I was a little bit nervous because she's thick. This is a big book. This is hefty. You could smack someone real good with this. I was worried, I'm like, okay, if I don't get into this book, I'm just gonna give up because it's really long. You know, it's The Great Gatsby. Yeah, you can kind of muscle through it. This, I was like, if I don't like this, I loved it. I immediately was so enthralled with the characters and the mystery and the suspense and the romance and also the yapping. I mentioned it in my more in-depth review. I loved how all the characters just yapped. I know some people don't like filler nonsense in books. I enjoyed it. I love a good yapper, what can I say? And a lot of it was very funny. So yeah, I recommend this book. If you want a thriller suspense novel, but with really good comedic relief and fabulous characters, grab it, read it, enjoy it. The 26th book I read this year was A History of Magic. This is another free digital book that I read on iBooks, and it's a series. I had a hard time getting into it in the beginning only because I was just way too busy to actually sit down and read. But when I finally had time to sit and read, I was like, love it. It was a little predictable, but like sometimes I enjoy a little bit of predictability. What can I say? It was very cute, so I recommend that. And it's free on iBooks, so go download it, go read it. Okay, on to my most recent reads. This book was my book club book. I'm finally in a book club. I feel like I manifested that truly, and it's a very small book club, and we strictly read spicy books. So it's very fun, and we get lots of good giggles. The first book we read, and the 27th book I read this year, was The Book of Azrael, Gods and Monsters, Book 1 by Amber V. Nicole. Okay, we already dove into this, but this book was lacking in multiple departments. The storyline was good, but there wasn't enough backstory to be sold on all the characters and their actions, so to speak. And also, for being a spicy book, it wasn't satisfying for the characters. We collectively felt bad as a group for the characters because they did not get what they wanted. But also at the same time, the story wasn't strong enough for us to be able to handle that. But there are supposed to be 7 books in the series, and I was not hooked enough to read even the second. I felt like it needed to just be a longer book, and I think their editor had them edit it down shorter and shorter, and it just needed more. Too much was taken out, it feels like. However, I still enjoyed reading it. It wasn't terrible. It was not The Great Gatsby. I still finished it, but I'm gonna only give it a 4 out of 5. It could be better. On to my most recent finish. I actually started this book before The Book of Azrael, but I wanted to finish that book in time for our little book club meeting. However, it didn't matter too much because the 28th book I read this year was Dracula's Guest by Bram Stoker. Now, this is my mom's copy, and I think it was, printed in 1937. So I read the digital version of this because I did not want to take this out in public and risk it. But I thought for this, we can hold it up and acknowledge how pretty it is. So Dracula's Guest is actually a collection of short stories. The first short story is Dracula's Guest, and then each chapter is a different short story, which I kind of liked because I had been so busy in October. I didn't really have time to sit and fully read till the last week, which I spent reading our book club book. So I liked it in that sense. However, some of the stories, specifically, I think the second one with the kitten, was a little too graphic for me. And I actually had to just skip that one because I could not. However, on that note, this really scratched that spooky itch. And as a person who grew up watching the Twilight Zone reruns as a child after school, which I know explains so much about me, I really liked this because I could sense how this inspired future suspense, thriller, and horror writers and filmmakers. I loved it in that sense. So I'm going to give this 4 out of 5, only because some of the stories I didn't vibe with, but others I loved. Okay, I think that concludes this cozy hobby vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I needed today. I really needed a day to regroup. I didn't realize until I was baking, because that's kind of my biggest stress reliever, just how stressed out and down I've been for the past week now. I hope this encourages you to take some time for yourself, do those little activities that give you a little serotonin boost, because sometimes you just gotta make it through tough times. But on that note, I'm going to order next month's book club book. And in the meantime, while I'm waiting for that to arrive, I think I'm gonna read another little short story, but I think I'm going to switch over to holiday themed reads. I'm just ready to switch over from spooky season to cozy season. You know, it's just, I really think it's time, you guys. So yeah, on that note, I will see ya when I see ya. Also, I did my nails.